محمد وآل بيت محمد صلوات
اللهم صل على محمد.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ومن آياته أن تقوم السماء والأرض بأمره ثم إذا دعاكم دعوة من الأرض إذا أنتم تخرجون وله من في السماوات والأرض كل له قانتون وهو الذي يبدأ الخلق ثم يعيده وهو أهون عليه وله المثل الأعلى في السماوات والأرض وهو العزيز الحكيم. ضرب لكم مثلا من أنفسكم هل لكم مما ملكت أيمانكم من شركاء فيما رزقناكم فأنتم فيه سواء تخافونهم كخيفتكم أنفسكم كذلك نفصل الآيات لقوم يعقلون. بل اتبع الذين ظلموا أهواءهم بغير علم فمن يهدي من ضل الله وما لهم من ناصرين. فأقم وجهك للدين حنيفا فطرة الله التي فطر الناس عليها لا تبديل لخلق الله ذلك الدين القيم ولكن أكثر الناس لا يعلمون. منيبين إليه واتقوه وأقيموا الصلاة وأقيموا الصلاة ولا تكونوا من المشركين صدق الله العلي العظيم.
एक आवाज़ बुलंद नारे सल्लल्लाहु फर्ज की दीन से बेशक उतर गए हुसैन, फर्ज की दीन से बेशक उतर गए ज़मीं तलाश रही है किधर गए हुसैन, फर्ज की दीन से बेशक उतर गए। करेगा शिर का पंजर तो सिर्फ सर को जुदा, करेगा शिर का पंजर तो सिर्फ सर को जुदा, मगर न लाशे अकबर पे मर गए हैं हुसैन, फर्ज की दीन से बेशक उतर गए सारे बुरी कटे हो खून चेहरे पर, सारे बुरी कटे हो खून चेहरे पर, अजीब हाल में शीरी के घर गए हैं हुसैन, फर्ज की दीन से बेशक उतर गए मैं मिलने शाम के जिंदा मैं आऊंगा तुझसे, मैं मिलने शाम के जिंदा मैं आऊंगा तुझसे, ये बात आखिरी बेटी से कर गए हैं हुसैन, फर्ज की दीन पे बेशक उतर गए कज़ा के बाद भी भाई बहन के साथ रहा, कज़ा के बाद भी भाई बहन के साथ रहा जिधर जिधर गई ज़ैनब उधर गए हैं हुसैन फरस की ज़ीन से बेशक उतर गए हैं हुसैन किसी ने मारा है पत्थर बहन के क्या अकबर किसी ने मारा है पत्थर बहन के क्या अकबर जो करते करते तिलावत ठहर गए हैं हुसैन फरस की ज़ीन से बेशक उतर गए हैं हुसैन ज़मीं तलाश रही है किधर गए हैं हुसैन फरस की ज़ीन से बेशक उतर गए हैं हुसैन नारे
बराए दीगर बुलंदर सलावत
Allahumma salli ala
Hi, my name is Hassan. Assalamu alaikum. Wahab ibn Abdullah had just got married and was returning to his hometown with his mother and the newlywed bride. Passing through Karbala, they found a camp pitched on one side and a large army posed against the few in those tents. Wahab found out that Imam Hussein alayhi salam had been surrounded on all sides by Yazid's army. Yazid's army were insisting on Imam Hussein alayhi salam either to accept Yazid's leadership or to die at their hands. Wahab carried the news to his wife and mother. When she was informed by Wahab that Imam Hussein alayhi salam with a few faithful followers was facing a big army of Yazid, she asked her son to hurry to aid Imam Hussein alayhi salam. All three of them came over to Imam Hussein alayhi salam, and the mother asked Imam Hussein alayhi salam to let Wahab join him. When Imam Hussein alayhi salam learned that Wahab had got married only a couple of days before, he insisted that Wahab must leave him and seek safety with his wife and mother. Wahab, a brave son of a brave mother, would not agree to this. "Oh Imam," Wahab said with his head bowed, "how is it possible for me to leave you and you dear one once in this condition? If I leave you and go away, I have not done my duty." Imam Hussein alayhi salam allowed Wahab to join his camp. Wahab fought bravely on the day of Ashura. His mother kept encouraging him form the camps until Wahab was murdered. Wahab's wife went to his side wiping off the blood from his face. Shimr saw him and ordered his slave to kill him. Wahab's wife was the only woman murdered of Karbala. Salawats.
صلوا على محمد وآل محمد
Allahumma salli ala
Assalamualaikum. What day is Ashura? Ashura was a formal Arab Eid day in the days of era of ignorance. People used to keep fast and make merry, and hold ceremonies of joy in the same manner as Nowruz was considered to be the Eid day in Iran. In the Arab history, Ashura day, 10th of Moharram, was a historical and customary aid. When the various tribes of Arab put on their clothes and decorate their cities, still a group of Arabs who is known as a Yazidi group celebrates the day as a festival. When the incident of Karbala took place in the year 61 Hijra, the views of Arab and Muslims was changed because of the martyrdom day of the best of the sons of Adam. Imam Hussein ibn Ali salam, for all the Shias, Ashura became a day of sorrow and grief, the day of honoring and celebrating the memories of the martyrs. In the very first year of the martyrdom of Imam Hussein salam, his friends, nearly 1,000 in number, gathered around his grave and recited elegies. Until this day, hundreds of thousands of friends of Ahlul Bayt salam remember Imam Hussein's martyrdom. In the morning meeting,
السلام عليك وعلى الأرواح التي حليت بفنائك وأنا أخذت برحلك بإحسان التقى نحن حسينا بإحسان التقى نحن حسينا رضينا العيش بالدنيا حسينا أبد والله لن ننسى حسينا أبد والله لن ننسى حسينا ولو جرعتنا كأس المنية ولو جرعتنا كأس المنية وما ترحلت عني يا خويا وبعد لا عباس يبرالي ولا حسين يا والله ضيمن ظل وحدنا وما حد بقى بالخيم عدنا عقبي الخدر ينداس حدنا يا خويا راحت معزتنا وسعدنا تقول لي يا حسين الحرام خويا الهضم والضيم يا حسين ومن بعدك بهاي الحرم يا حسين يا خويا وبقت بس نسوان يا حسين وانت يا موسد الغبرة رمية يا وانت موسد الغبرة يا رمية. موقف أخير لزينب سلام الله عليها تقول لأخويا ريض يا حاد الضعين خلي نودع حسين ريض يا حايد الضعين خلي نودع حسين ما هي مرويضة من غير تكفين ما هي مروة نشيل عنه وما نواريه جسمي مرضرض والترايب سافي عليه وش تقول زينب خويا نمشي بلا والي يا خويا نمشي بلا والينا نخليه بالضعن بالله خبروني لو قصد لاوي وجوده وحق افضل ابو فاضل وجوده جفوفه ورايته ظلن وجوده هيبه كان لعيالي وجوده وزماني فرهدك من بيدي
اللهم
Please move forward. Yeah, please, all the movement come forward because other movement will come from the back. They can have seat in the back. I thank the ladies who have their kids taken, small kids less than 5-year-old. Please take them downstairs as you did yesterday. We really appreciate the tomorrow we will have blood drive. Tomorrow we will have blood drive, so there will be a big truck down there. So I request everybody to park their car as much as possible, especially morning people. You can walk 2-3 minute walk from the school. Just to, we will do carpool too. We'll try to run it when, so we can bring it. But if you can walk and go there, that will help a lot for our parking. Otherwise it kind of jammed up here, and then we have to park on the grass. It's not good to park on the grass. So even if you come early, you have 2 minutes to walk there, and we will try to get a car which will bring you there. And there are 12 spots left for blood drive. As Maulana explained yesterday also, it's a big sawab. We want to do it in the name of Imam Hussain. So please do write down your name there. Time sheet there. You can write down and pick up your time too. Okay, I'll ask Maulana to come to the member and continue with his message of how we become a successful moment. And he told you the attributes very nice in last 4, and he will continue to tell us more about it. In loudest of your 3 salawat.
There's a request for recitation of Al-Majid for first those who are, as you mentioned last night, those who become the victims of Hurricane Matthew, whether there are mu'min, mu'minat who are not able to take part in the Majalis because of the curfew that's taking place in places like Orlando, our brothers and sisters who are in Haiti who are feeling the brunt of this, and all those who are suffering, and our hearts are with them. Also, a friend of mine in Qom, a student, has requested also that we keep his wife in dua. She's not feeling very well and she's in need of that. So let's recite Amma Yujib together 5 times. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Amma Yujib al-Musarra idha da'a wa yakshif as-su'. أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء. 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 صلوات. If I could also please just request some of the brothers to move just a bit more forward so that as mu'mineen are coming forward, they don't disturb the Majlis. And while we're doing that, we can recite a Surah Al-Fatiha for all of the marhumeen and marhumat. مع أفضل الصلوات. بسم الله. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وبه نستعين لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم والحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين شفيع المذنبين رحمة للعالمين سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد ثم الصلاة والسلام والتحية والإكرام على أهل البيت الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين المنتجبين المكرمين لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين روحي وأرواح العالمين للتراب مقدمه الفدا ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين من الأولين والآخرين إلى قيام يوم الدين أما بعد فقد قال الله الحكيم في كتابه المبين وقوله الحق وهو أصدق القائلين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والذين هم عن اللغو معرضون صلوات على محمد مؤمنين مؤمنات brothers and sisters in Islam and Iman Salamun alaykum jami'an wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Our series, our discussion is called The Successful Mu'min, how to become a successful mu'min. What are the qualities and traits for those who are trying to take their iman to a higher, a deeper level? We first discussed what the definition of success is in terms of the Quran, and in terms of being Ahlul Dunya versus Ahlul Akhirah. What does it mean to have spiritual success? And that we said is we have to do away with any sort of materialism that's in our life, whether it's physical materialism, looking going after power, wealth, money, things like that, or spiritual or practical materialism, meaning the way that we think about things, the way that we're looking for the physical things in life. Then we moved on to the second ayah, which talked about one of the next qualities, or the first qualities that a successful mu'min has, is that in their prayers, they're khashir, have khushu, they're humble. And we gave the definition of khushu. We mentioned some practical steps. We said that the first thing is to recognize Allah. You have to have yaqeen of Allah. After that, then you have to understand yourself. And the conclusion of both those two steps is that Allah is everything. He's the source of all, and I'm absolutely nothing. Everything I have, everything that I want has to come and be sourced from Allah. There's nothing that I have in my possession. Once that's done, then a person the conclusion, the natural conclusion there is a person now has no right to judge anybody else. A person has no right to have any sort of takabbur and pride in their hearts at all. They submit themselves, they humble themselves. We said in the actual prayer now, a person then humbles themselves. The first thing they can do is start controlling their body parts, right? Not playing with their beard, not moving their hands, controlling that. Then they can take the next step and start controlling their minds. What's passing through their minds? What are they thinking about while they pray? First step is to figure out, what are you saying? Figure out the translation of what you're saying while you're reciting prayer. If that's not done, then the simplest thing you can do is focus on those little parts of salah that you do know. We said astaghfirullah is one of those basic parts we all know. Focusing on your sins as you recite that. If not, then focus on Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim or Allahu Akbar, whatever part is you know. So that quality was done. And now on to the second sifa, which Allah says, A'udhu billah min ash-shaytan rajim, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, in the third ayah of Surah Mu'minun, chapter 23, وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ عَنِ اللَّغْوِ مُعْرِضُونَ. It says that they're mu'rid, they do i'rab, they keep away, they neglect, they turn away from things which are lagh. What is lagh? Lam, ghain, waw. What is that? Typical translations of the Quran will say that this is vain. What does that mean, vain, right? We're trying to do away with this kind of fancy Shakespearean English. First thing we have to figure out is, what does this mean? What is lagh? Something which is lagh is anything, any action, any speech, anything in your mind, anything which you do, which is useless, which is worthless, which is unproductive. Basically, to put it simply, it's a waste of time, right? It's not worth our time to do. What's the natural conclusion of something that's lagh, something that's a waste? It's that it leads to us neglecting, ignoring, and not paying attention to Allah and the haqq that He's doing, the right that He's doing. That's basically lagh, and something which is a waste wasteful in a nutshell. Now we said that what we're discussing, these sifat, these characteristics, are specific to those who are trying to raise their level of iman, right? To be a successful mu'min. Interestingly enough, this same concept of keeping away from useless things has been mentioned as a quality of the mu'mineen who existed before Islam. Now what do we mean by before Islam? We're using the very technical definition of Islam, meaning those who came after the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Obviously, though, we know from Adam alayhi salam onwards, everybody who did submit to the message of the prophets was also technically a Muslim, right? But this is specifically talking about those who were given the Torah, the Injil, etc., the Psalms, the true version of the Bible, the Torah. All those who submitted to those messages of the Prophet, the Quran addresses them as well. And it mentions actually the characteristics that they had. And this is in Surah Al-Qasas, chapter 28. And it starts from ayat 52 on to about ayat 58, I believe. But what I want to focus on is ayat 55, because it talks about this point which we are addressing. It says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. وَإِذَا سَمِعُوا اللَّغْوَ أَعْرَضُوا عَنْهُ. Whenever they heard love, whenever they heard something useless, something which is a waste of time, they shouldn't have been bothered with, أَعْرَضُوا عَنْهُ. They just kept away from it, right? They left it alone. But the reason I'm bringing this ayat is not just to make us familiar with the Quran. It's because Allah adds something here which is really interesting, right? We're always after practical advice, right? Abstract, philosophical stuff is great. We want to learn that. But we need practical tips too, just like we've been doing the past few nights. So over here, Allah Himself adds something that they would do whenever they came in front of things which are a waste of time. So after He says, وَإِذَا سَمَعُوا اللَّغْوَ أَعْرَضُوا عَنْهُ وَقَالُوا, then these people, these Ahlul Kitab, those non-traditional Muslimin, those who were given Torah, Injil, etc., those who are mu'mineen, what did they do when they kept away from things which are a waste of time? They added this and they said, لَنَا أَعْمَالُنَا وَلَكُمْ أَعْمَالُكُمْ. Basically, listen man, you do you, I'll do me. Right? To put it in terms of language that some of you might understand. They'd also like what you're talking about, right? It's street language, sorry. Basically, listen, you do whatever you have to do, and I'm going to stick what I have to do. I'm going to do what I have to do. So if you want to go and waste your time, that's fine. Go ahead. Get involved with whatever is a waste of your time. But I have to do what I have to do. So let's kind of separate ourselves in that. Then they add something. They say, Salamun alaykum. So it's not just that, okay, this person's involved in things which are a waste of time. They're not at the level of iman that I'm looking for. So, forget them, la'nat on them, peace out. No, peace out it's literally what they say. They're saying peace. We don't hate you for what you do. We don't agree with what you do, but salamun alaykum. We wish you peace. We hope that you would do something better with your life. But right now, you're not in that stage. That's okay. We're in a stage where we're trying to improve ourselves. So Allah is still saying, don't keep that hate in your heart for other people who are not at your level. Again, remember what we had said last night. If you've got that humility in you, you realize you're nothing and that Allah is everything, you stick to that advice that the fifth Imam had given, that whenever you meet anybody, you say, Huwa khayrun minni. This person's better than me. If you stick to that, then of course, to every single person you'll meet, no matter who, internally you'll say, Salam, right? I hope this guy has peace in his life. And then there's one more point. But then they add, La nabtaghi al-jahili. This is a bit more harsh, right? So it's saying that, now this, I don't know if you want to say it to those individuals, but basically, I don't know, it's the literal translation might not work here. Basically, it's trying to say that, listen, we've got nothing to do with people who are jahil, right? We've got other things that we're worried about in our life. What you're doing is a characteristic of those who are ignorant. Not ignorant in kind of like an insulting sense, in the Quranic idea, right? Okay, you guys are ignorant of Allah. You're ignorant of your duty to Allah. You're ignorant of what you should be doing with your life, right? You're sitting there wasting your time doing X, Y, Z. What they're doing, inshallah, we'll start mentioning that. You're doing the stuff which is a waste of your life. You don't understand that right now. My life, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to improve myself. I'm trying to get better. I'm trying to be successful in not a dunyawi sense, not in a worldly sense, but an immaterial, spiritual sense. That's what I want to do with my life. That's my goal. We don't have the same goals right now, so salam to you, but I can't hang out with somebody like you, right? I have to do what I gotta do, right? That's the thing. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Okay. So the definition of what's useless, what's wasteful, we mentioned what level means. Okay. Now we said that this is some of the qualities, this is a quality of the mu'mineen of the past. Okay, now well, you said something is a waste of time. Well, what is an example? What is a waste of time in our lives? We have to figure what that is. So there's a question that the commentators of the Quran, when they come to this ayah, they ask this question at any time the word law is used in the Quran, and it's used a lot of times. They say, okay, is this law, is this staying away from things which are a waste of time, is it absolute, is it mutlaq, or is there some conditions? So they say, is the concept of love, the things which are a waste of time, is it a relative concept or is it an absolute concept? Meaning what? Meaning if I say, for example, sports, can we say sports, as an example, is absolutely love, therefore you have to absolutely keep away from it, and nobody should get involved with sports at all? Or is it relative to different individuals, depending on their niyat, etc., etc.? That's what we have to try to answer. Sallu ala Muhammad wa It should be obvious that, before we get deep into the discussion, that if we start asking everybody here, we're going to start disagreeing on what's a waste of time in our lives and what's not. So let's do a very easy example. Okay. How many of you feel that video games are a waste of time? Okay, it's only one adult. Okay. You don't have to be shy, it's okay. So a few. Alhamdulillah. Now notice how none of the kids raised their hand, right? I didn't raise my hand either, obviously, because I play video games. Which then is a hujjah that it's not wrong, right? I guess no, not. Okay, so then if I ask who thinks that it's not a waste of time, which I don't need to, but you'll see some people, a lot of people apparently, even some of the 67-year-olds would think it's not a waste of time. Or you're just too lazy to raise your hand. Either or, I'm not sure which. But point is that, okay, how are we going to figure out what's a waste of time? How are we going to figure out what's useless, unproductive? We need to figure this out. If we've got a difference of opinion on what is a waste of time, okay, video games, music, TV, somebody might say some other things. They might say, listen, lunches are a waste of time. You can get a bunch of different opinions. We can find a lot of stuff. The simple question we can ask ourselves, am I connected in any way, shape, or form to Allah while I'm doing this? Is there any way that this has to do with Islam, this has to do with me improving myself? This thing that I'm saying, this thing that I'm doing? If the answer is yes, then okay. If the answer is no, then we got a problem. Okay. So then the next part of the question, let's say the answer is no. Let's say, okay, video games. When I'm playing it, I'm not thinking about Allah. I'm thinking about killing this person that I'm playing, multiplayer. He's some guy sitting in UK. I'm trying to shoot him. I'm trying to kill him. That's what I'm doing. Well, you know what I mean by shooting and killing, right? I don't want to get home and afraid while they're listening to this. I mean virtually, right? Not literally. Right? We're not Daesh here. So, we're playing a game. We're just trying to have fun. That's typically what's in our minds. Okay. So then, again, the commentators, the mufassirin, they open up the discussion again. They said, is this kind of staying away from things which are a waste of time? Is it absolute? Like, just don't even get involved with this stuff? Or is it something else? And the answer is no. It's not mutlaq. It's not just completely abstain and stay away from things which are, quote unquote, a waste of time. It's something different. Why? They say, because we naturally, as human beings, we're after things which are good for us, which are pleasurable, which are entertaining. That's what we do here, right? This world has a lot of entertainment, and a lot of us want to get involved with that, okay? So then what's the point? There's 2 points. One is this. Okay, let's say, for example, I told you that I'm an undefeated MMA fighter. I'm not lying. I'm an undefeated MMA fighter. And how is that true? You tell me. How can that possibly be true? Yeah, because I've never fought in my life. That's why. That's why I'm undefeated, right? Okay, I've never stepped in the ring before. So, does me being undefeated now have any meaning? Oh, absolutely not. Right? Okay. Or another example. I've never lost any money in stocks. Yeah, because I've never played stock. I've never got involved in stocks, right? So I've never made money either, right? There's no positive nor negative. Over here, what's the point of all these different forms of entertainment in this world? Video games, music, TV, all this stuff. Why? It's because once you get involved, now you're actually in the ring. Can you now pull yourself away from that or not? If it's actually a waste of time, right? That's what our assumption is right now. If it's a waste of time, are you aware enough? Are you in control enough that you can say, you know what, I got to step away from this. This is not worth my time. This is low. This is a waste. I've got better things to do with my life. What the Mufassirin say is that's one point that Allah's trying to get across. Is, listen, don't just absolutely just stay away from everything, sit in your home and read Quran all day, right? That's not the point of life. There's other things involved. You're going to be at work. There's going to be, for example, work parties. Hopefully there's no alcohol there, but whatever, work things. There's going to be entertainment happening all the time. What are you going to do when you're in that situation? Are you going to buckle under pressure? Or are you going to strengthen yourself, establish yourself on the deen that you said you've established on? You're part of Islam. You're a mu'min, a successful mu'min, and you can keep away from it. What can you do in that situation? So this is a way for us to build. If you don't get in the ring, there's no way you can fight. There's no way you can test yourself. So this is one point. Sallu ala Muhammad wa That's one. But there's another point which, of course, the youth here, especially since we're talking about video games as an example, this is something which they say is an even bigger goal, and is probably the main point that Allah's trying to get across here. That you should now take anything you do in your life, anything you say, anything you do, anything you watch, anything you're involved in, and you should be able to turn it into something which is useful. Turn that, anything you do, into something which is divine, something which is holy, something which is beneficial. It's not love anymore. It's something which benefits your soul and raises you and elevates you. Now, I know what you're saying. She's entertaining everything. I think. I hope that's laughing and not crying. Is it okay? Okay. So okay, now I know your question right away. Hold on, video games? How the heck am I gonna improve my soul like that? We'll get to it, don't worry, we're gonna get to that. So what we'll do tonight is I'm gonna give you a simple formula. With this formula, you should be able to take just about anything, as long as it's not haram, obviously, right? You can't take gambling and turn it into something which is good. You can't take alcohol and turn it into something good. Anything which is not haram, you should be able to turn it into something beneficial for your soul. I'll give you the formula, inshallah. If you want it. If you don't want it, then we can just move on and talk about some other stuff. That's up to you. If you want it, send a salawat ala Muhammad. It's a loaded salawat. We would have sent it no matter what I said. It doesn't matter, right?
صلوا على محمد وآل محمد.
Okay, so here's the magic formula. Whenever you have something you want to say, whenever you have something you want to do, or you're already involved in it, all you do is you stop for a second, you jump into your brain, you jump into your mind, and you make and you draw a mental line, a mental connection from whatever you're about to say or do, and connect it back to Allah somehow. Just like connect the dots, basically. Okay, so how are we going to do that? We'll go through some examples, and we'll see how it can be very easy. Okay, let's start with something really easy, right? Okay, job. You go to your job every day. Some of you 9 to 5, 8 to 4, whatever you do. I'm going to my job. Now, before that, it could technically be a waste of time, meaning it's not going to benefit you spiritually. Why? Because you go there, you're there, you just do whatever your work is, you type on your computer, enter your stuff in the database, or some of you cut people open and take out whatever's, all the doctors here, or whatever doctor stuff you guys do. Whatever it is, you do all this stuff, and you come back, you're done, your day's done. Your mind's not active in that sense as far as spirituality is concerned. If that's the case, then yes, it's not going to build you. But what can you do? Very simple. You say, okay, stop for a second. I'm going to this job. Why am I going to this job? Because I'm earning a living. I'm earning rizq. Rizq is something that Allah provides. But there's your connection. Allah has entrusted me with a family. I have to provide them with rizq. It's wajib on me to do that. I'm talking to the husbands and the fathers here, obviously. It's wajib on us to provide that for our families. So you make that connection, and now whenever you go to work, it's something you keep in the back of your mind. So that whenever something good or bad, whatever happens, now Allah's sitting in the back of your mind that, okay, I'm not just doing this just to get money and start buying a bigger house or do whatever. No, I'm doing this because Allah's commanded me to do something. When I earn that money, I get to spend on my family and take care of them, and they get happy because of that. This now becomes something divine. It's now a holy thing that you're doing. And basically your job now becomes something not just wajib technically, it's something now mustahab. And your soul starts to elevate every time you do this. Okay. Spiritual, ahsan. So that's job. Okay. That's an easy thing. Maybe a lot of us do that already. Okay, now what about school? Right? Your education. Now either it's the same as what we said before, right? You're earning that, you're getting a degree so that eventually you can get a job and earn a living. I think we're running out of space. If the mu'mineen could just stand up, please, and move as far forward as they can. And give space in the back. Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa just a request as well. On the weekends, obviously, we always expect more individuals to come. So from the beginning, so that we don't have to take breaks in between, and that the Qarabai doesn't have to take his time to make the announcement. Those who are coming forward, wasabiquna sabiqun, try to come to the front if you can, inshallah. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. You don't have to be scared. You can sit over here too.
صلوا على محمد وآل محمد.
Okay, so school. How do we make school something spiritual, something holy, something divine? Either it's the same as above, like we said, meaning just like your job, you're earning this degree so that eventually you can get a good job so you can provide for your family. It's risk that Allah has set aside for you. Okay. There's another one. What if you're in high school or you're in middle school or elementary school or well, I don't want to say daycare center, maybe it's a bit too early for that, right? To think this deep. I don't know, some of your kids are really intelligent, so it's possible. But okay, what about that? You're just learning now, right? Science or math, whatever it is. Like if let's say a person eventually is gonna go, for example, study medicine, right? And right now they're studying geography. Technically, that has nothing to do with the risk, technically, right? Like a doctor can absolutely have no idea what's going on in the world and still figure out what's going on, right? We saw one of the previous Republican candidates, right? He was a doctor, a surgeon, and didn't really know what was going on in the world, but whatever, that's aside. So when somebody is just learning, what can they keep in their mind? Again, make that mental connection to Allah. Allah's created everything in this world. Part of this world is geography. Part of this world we find out through science. Part of this world we uncover through math. All these different subjects. So what are we doing? Learning about Allah's creation. Through that creation, you get closer and closer to Allah. You know, one of the kind of cliche things that people always bring up whenever they're trying to get defensive and reactionary about Islam is, oh, Islam was like the pinnacle of scientific achievement. Yes, it's true. It was back in that day. We had that golden age. But why did they do that? Just for the sake of doing that? There's very interesting books written about it. You can reference Sayyid Hussein Nasr, for example. He's written a lot of interesting books. But the main point is this. Those philosophers, those scientists were trying to understand Allah's creation. They were trying to understand Allah, right, as far as they could. And they said that obviously we can't understand Allah because Allah is something the mind can't comprehend. But what He's given us is this alam, this world, this dunya. Through this dunya is how we can understand who He is. That's how they started making improvements in science and technology and mathematics, astronomy, cosmology, everything. That's why they did that. They had Allah in their minds, and that's how they improved all this. Now you see why some, unfortunately, so-called Muslim or Islamic societies are failing is because they're going after science or math or astronomy, whatever, just for the sake of that stuff. Go back to what we had mentioned a few nights ago about practical materialism. They're thinking their goal is about just getting money or about just getting this knowledge. That's it. It's not about getting closer to Allah. If they had done that, just like the previous Islamic scholars had done, then we'd see today what kind of improvement and how kind of achievements Islam would have reached. For example, right now, look at the Islamic Republic of Iran. The most amount of academic papers which are published come out of Iran. I don't know if any of you knew this. And if I'm not mistaken, I don't know if it's still the case, but it's been the case for a few years, that the most in-depth amount of research regarding stem cell research has been done by Iranian scientists. Right? A lot of scientists from Iran are invited to the US to share their medical and scientific research. Right? It's because you have, for example, ulama there, like, for example, Ayatollah Khamenei, who are trying to encourage individuals, right, men and women, get involved in the sciences, study, expand. We need to make sure that we're the ones who are the leaders of this. Ayatollah Sistani, may Allah protect him as well, has also been advising. For any of you who have been to his office and have asked about, okay, what's the advice that we get as Westerners? It's that whatever you do, you need to be number one in. If you want to be a doctor, be the number one doctor. If you want to be a PhD in math, be the number one PhD in math. If you want to be a video game tester, you better be the best video game tester that there ever was, right? Things like this. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Okay. So we're starting from the easy ones. We're going to go more and more difficult, right? The difficulty level is getting harder and harder, right? You start with easy, rookie, medium. That's how you go in difficulty levels when you play video games, right? And you go on extreme. Okay, so next. Housework, being a homemaker, right? Now, again, I don't want to be accused of being a chauvinist or anti-feminist or any of these labels. I'm talking about the way that a lot of households are right now. Many, again, I'm not trying to assign gender roles here, right? I don't want anybody to attack me afterwards. I don't want any blog posts or anybody to kill me, right? A lot of women complain about this. They say, my husband is out there earning a living, the risk for the household, and I'm stuck at home cooking or cleaning or taking care of the kids. And we mentioned what a job could do, right? How you can connect that back to Allah. Okay, so where does cooking, cleaning, raising kids, what does that have to do? How can I connect that back to Allah? Now I'm going to give you one controversial hadith. Again, some might not like it, but I have to share it because I think it's beneficial for us to hear. And I don't have the Arabic, I couldn't find it, unfortunately, but I heard it from a scholar that I trust, so I'll basically paraphrase the English for you. Basically, it says that the jihad of a woman is cooking a good meal for their family. Now again, I know that the feminist kind of alarm is going off right now. Take it at its face value right now, okay? Ahsant. So now, hold on. Now, again, some might say, what do you mean? I'm just supposed to sit at home and cook all day? Like, what is that? Listen, everybody has been assigned specific roles by Allah. Now, will these roles change depending on environmental, different things which happen in the environment, different societal requirements based on education? Yes, these things can change. It's not written in stone necessarily, right? But there's certain things which are, we call an ideal, given an ideal situation, an ideal circumstance. And we could open this up. There's a lot of information about the role of men and women Islamically, the Islamic role of men and women in society, what Allah has decided and prescribed for us. But, that can go on for, but that's a big, big discussion, right? So that's one mention. Now, okay. What about raising kids? Again, some mothers might not like that. They say, I'm sitting at home babysitting. Well, I want to go out and, work. Keep in mind the kind of environment that we're in, the time, what we're commemorating right now. We're talking about these figures like Ali al-Akbar, Ali al-Asghar, Qasim. Tonight we talk about Aun Muhammad. We talk about all these different personalities. Who raised these individuals so that they could become an Ali al-Akbar, so that they can become an Ali al-Asghar, so that they could become an Abbas, so that they can become an Qasim, so that they can become Aun Muhammad. Yes, the father has their role, not denying that. But from what our ulama, what our Islamic scholars say, is that this akhlaq, this tarbiyah, this tazkiyah, this training comes solely and mainly from the mothers. The mothers are the ones who build these kinds of shuhada. The mothers are the ones who build these mu'mineen. So if this is something we're after, then a mother should understand that her role is that she's creating an Islamic environment. That's a big job. Obviously, you don't have to make that direct mental connection. This is something that's very obvious. If we're trying to raise soldiers of the imam of the time, then this is going to be mainly the job of a mother. And we have examples in history where because a mother wasn't able to raise them properly, you see how the child, or what happened and what failed. So, one example that we have from the prophets, Nabi Yusuf alayhi salam, his brother and himself, right, bin Yamin, so Joseph and Benjamin alayhi salam, were raised, they were from one mother, right, who was Rahila. And she was a pious mother, right, she was a mu'minah. So from that you have two pious individuals that come out from that. Now what happens with the other brothers? They tried to murder a prophet. And where are they from? They were from different mothers. Same father. Their father is Nabi Yaqub alayhi salam. Prophet Jacob. A prophet is the father, but all of these children have different mothers. The one who's a mu'minah gives birth to two mu'min individuals. One according to some, two prophets, right? And even some, according to some of our commentators, Nabi Yusuf himself was actually even imam of his time. Right? And that's why Nabi Yaqub cried for it so much. Not that he lost his son, but that he lost his imam. But that's a different point. But the other brothers, you see the way they were raised. The mothers were ahlul dunya. The mothers raised materialistic, jealous children, and you see the conclusion, you see the natija. So yes, a mother might say, oh, my job this is too big of a job. Well, it's a blessing that you're getting. Allah is saying, the father can't handle a job like this. In actuality, it's kind of an insult to men if you think about it. Right? Allah is basically saying, listen, you Neanderthals, you guys go out, you type some keys, right? You go out and do some physical, manual labor, you bring home some money, because the mother has to spend her mind, her intellect, her heart and soul creating a soldier for the imam. She has to create a real human being. You guys just go earn a couple dollars and bring it back in the house. The women have the real job. They have the tough job, not the men, to think about it. And that's why some of our ulama say that, I'm sorry to say this to the men, but the women actually are the better gender than us. One artist says that, right? I don't know about the majority opinion, but at least one says that. But you can see clearly why that's the case. When it comes to this irfani discussion about manifesting the names of Allah, they say that the kind of more physical or obvious names of Allah, like Ar-Raziq, the one who sustains, is something that men are the ones who manifest that more perfectly. Whereas women, they manifest the names of Allah, which are the Jamali names, the beautiful names. Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim, Al-Ghafur, Al-Ghaffar. They're the ones who embody mercy and compassion and love. Again, sometimes this might seem like, no, that's not the case. Men and women are equal, this and that. This is not about equality and this and that. Can a woman go out and earn a living and get a job? Yeah, of course you can. But what Allah is saying is that you have a higher duty waiting for you. Not just earning money and bringing it back. There's something that's loftier, which is grander, waiting for you. Why do you think all these rules are set up so that women are kept at ease? The mother is kept at ease. It's wajib for the man to go earn. A woman doesn't have to do anything. I'll mention it now. Housework, I have to break some more bubbles, unfortunately. Housework is not wajib on women. It's not wajib on the woman in the house. In fact, a woman, now the men are going to kill me after this, a woman can charge for anything she does in the house. She can say, oh, you like that, that biryani I made last night? Yeah, if you want it again, it's going to be $20. And she has that right. She's like, you know how I take care of these kids every day? Well, that's going to be $25 an hour. Forget just $20 of this. She can charge for these things. Nursing newborn children, she doesn't have to do that as well. Yes, the best thing is for up to 2 years, right, that a child is nursed by the mother. But the mother can say, I don't feel like doing that. Go hire somebody else or, forget it. Nothing at all. She can charge for that. Allah is saying that, listen, a woman, you're the queen of the household. You can sit and do absolutely nothing and you're okay. As far as what's wajib and haram, we're considering that right now. The man, the husband, the father, you need to go out wajib, earn, give your nafaqah, so that your wife can eat, she can sleep properly, she can be clothed properly, all these things. Basically, you're basically presenting gifts to her constantly. She's like the queen of the house. I mean, that analogy is actually in its place. She needs to be taken care of 100%. She can sit there and lounge all day and do nothing and sip on, I don't want to say margaritas, but halal drinks, whatever she decides to drink, right? Her mango lassi, whatever she decides. And the man's got to provide for that if that's what her nafaqah calls for, whatever her thing calls for. We are out there creating the environment so that she's at peace, that she's in comfort, so that her mind is ready to train these children, so that we then have the ability to make a proper Islamic and a Muslim in a household filled with Iman. Sallu ala Muhammad wa I think I said too much. I don't know how many people are upset with me, but this is Islam. What do you want me to do? This is Islam, right? Or as some say, Islam inab. This is the way Islam has been. We haven't heard these things before. If it's not going to be me, it'll be somebody else, right? It's better that you hear it from me. Somebody who's younger than a lot of you, so that you can come and you can slap me afterwards, right? You can do it to somebody younger. But if some older, white-bearded speaker comes, then you can't really say much to him, right? No.
Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Another point to add to this as well. If motherhood, if raising a child didn't have anything to do and was in the mother's duty and role wasn't so important, then I have one question for all the mu'mineen and mu'minat here. Why did Imam Ali alayhi salam specifically look for a specific mother when it came to looking for somebody to give birth to Hazrat Abbas alayhi salam? He was in search for a Bani. This wasn't just find me some tribe so I can have a warrior son. No, he needed the right mother to raise the right child. And when you have both parents who have that Islamic identity in mind and it's established in the household, that's how you can have an Abbas that's raised. Right? Imam said, I want a protector for the house. I need a protector for my Hussein. That's why he had his brother find somebody like Bani. And inshallah we'll mention this when we get to the Masahib of Abu Fadl Abbas, inshallah. Another point, the Islamic Revolution in Iran. It's famous, that Imam Khomeini, rahmatullah alayh, when he was kind of, in a negative way, said, before the revolution got strong, said, where's your soldiers? Where's your support? Who's going to support this so-called Islamic revolution you're talking about? He said, right now, they're in the wombs of the mothers in the society. He meant that in kind of two ways, as they described. One is physically, literally, that yes, they're not ready, they're not there yet. They're going to be born soon. It's one thing. But two, he also meant on a spiritual kind of way, meaning they'll be raised by those types of mothers. They'll be raised by those Baneens and Laylas and Rababs, etc., etc. Those are the women in society who will raise these types of soldiers, the proper women in society. Okay, so we started with the easy difficulty, right? We went from jobs, we went to education, we talked about motherhood or running a household, which is exactly what it is, being a manager of a house. Okay, but what happened to video games? What happened to music? What happened to TV? What happened to all these things? How are we supposed to justify this? Is there a way to justify that? Inshallah, we'll discuss that tomorrow night. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So definitely, especially the youth, you're definitely gonna want to come to that part tomorrow, right? Because we need to figure out and answer the question. Like if I'm gonna go and I'm gonna start watching movies and watching TV, which a lot of us already do. I mean, it's basically like I'm giving you a way out. I'm giving you like a cheat code, basically. Is there a way that I can somehow make it mustahab for me to play Call of Duty? I can make it for you. All right, I can do it, but you're gonna have to show up and you're gonna have to listen, inshallah. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala one more salawat ala Muhammad wa ala As we have been saying, when there's an established, a strong Islamic identity in a household, this is the way that you raise individuals who become, in the future, mu'mineen, successful mu'mineen. When you have parents whose identity is established and strong, when they're able to keep away from things which are a waste of time, and they establish a rule, an environment in the household, which things which are a waste of time, we don't get involved. The child sees that as they grow up. So when a child is like that, when they're in that environment, when they see that their parents don't waste time, therefore they don't want to waste time, they become individuals who, their life becomes productive. They become more spiritual individuals. This is the case of any age. Imam Hussein alayhi salam, it's not for people who waste their time on this, right? Imam Hussein alayhi salam, if his message is supposed to be understood, it needs to be those whose heart is cleansed of the dunya. You have to be away from the dunya. You mentioned how the dunya has affected people before, like Umar ibn Sa'ad. The dunya was what caused him to keep away and move away from Hussein. But when somebody becomes Ahl al-Akhirah, when they use their time wisely, when their parents raise them properly, when they have an established identity of Tawheed, Adalah, Nabuwa, Imamah, Qiyamah, and all this stuff is firmly established, then you get individuals like Qasim. Then you get individuals like Ali Muhammad. These youth, according to some narrations, 9, 11 years old, not even teenagers. Can you imagine any of our 9, 10, 11-year-olds, 12-year-olds going out with a sword in their hand, a shield, on a horse, going out to fight people who are 2, 3, 4 times their age, who have been trained for nothing but battle? Individuals who have been trying to scare them since they arrived in Karbala, beating their drums, stomping their horses, scaring them from the beginning. Have you raised children like that yet? As parents, this is a wake-up call for us. When we say that, I hear this a lot, but my child is too young to start fasting. If your child is too young to start fasting, then definitely on Muhammad, way too young to start fighting. They had a mu'min identity. They were successful. Why? Because of the way they were raised. Something for us to remember. These are the children of Abdullah ibn Ja'far al-Tayyar and Zainab al-Ta'ali. These are 2 strong parents, spiritual parents, who had ma'rifat of Allah. That's how they were able to raise children like this. A lot of times, when we pay our respects to Our Lady, Zainab, sometimes I think we do an injustice to her. We start after Ashura, right? We start at Sham al-Ghariba. We start then and say, now it's her musibah. But there's a reason that Zainab alayhi salam is al-Masa'ib. She's the mother of musibah. Why is that? It's because her musibah started from the beginning and it continued all the way until she made it back to her home in Medina. She's the one who started the Aza of Hussein. She's the one who was witness to everything from when they were leaving Medina, when they left Mecca, when they were on their way, when they were stopped. At every single point she was there, she was a witness. For every person who became shaheed, she was a witness. When the women and children needed her, she was there. On the way from Karbala to Kufa, from Kufa to Sham, and back to Medina, she was there. She was the totem pole. She was the point of strength. She became the Abbas once Abbas was taken away from her. She became that pole of strength. They say when Zainab alayhi salam was born, and she was a baby, she would become restless. Sometimes she would cry, as babies do. And this is how we know that she has that strong connection to her brother Hussein. Whenever she would cry, nobody could calm her down. Imam Ali couldn't, maybe Fatima couldn't, everyone else tried, they couldn't. When they took Zainab and they put her in the hands of Hussein, who was only a few years older, then she'd stop her crying right away. From that moment, they knew that there was a special connection between this brother and this sister, between Hussein and Zainab. Imagine this kind of connection which was built from that point, this kind of brother and sister relationship. And those who have a sibling like this, you know what I mean. When you're connected to your brother, your sister like this, whenever you're feeling sad, you go to them. Whenever you're feeling happy, they're the first one you share your experiences with. When Amir al-Mu'mineen married his daughter Zainab to Abdullah ibn Ja'far, normally you know that putting conditions in the nikah is normally not a good thing. But over here, Amir al-Mu'mineen puts a shart. He says, Abdullah, I have one shart that I want to put in this nikah. He says, yes, tell me, well, what's the shart? He said, you see, this Zainab and this Hussein, they can never be taken apart. Wherever Hussein goes, Zainab must go. If Hussein goes one place, Zainab must follow. Never keep them apart. This is the only thing I ask for you. He respected this. So much so that the respect for Zainab that she had for her husband, when she found out that her brother was leaving, that he had to go on this mission, she went and she asked Abdullah for ijazah. A wife asking ijazah, even though she knew that she had the right to go with her imam, with her brother. He said, do I have the right to go and join my brother Hussein? We're told that on the night of Ashura, after everyone on the camp had known that the next day the battle would start and that nobody would survive, Imam Hussein would go from tent to tent to all the different families just to listen to see what kind of conversations were taking place, what was happening then. He came across the tent of Zainab, talking to her on Muhammad. She was saying these beautiful lines. She said, my sons, on Muhammad, don't forget that you're the grandsons of Ja'far al-Tayyar. Don't forget that you're the grandsons of Amir al-Mu'mineen. When the men go for jihad tomorrow, don't think of yourself as worse than them or as less than them. You go and join them. You follow them right into battle and defend your uncle Hussein. Don't make me feel ashamed in front of my mother Fatima on the day of judgment. This is what Zainab was telling a 9 and 11-year-old. Can we speak like this to our own children? Speak of death like this. These children were so proud. They said, just give us ijazah, take us to Hussein, let us get ijazah from our uncle Hussein, and we'll go out and we'll fight. We'll see the kind of jihad that we do for you. But what would happen is, as with everyone else, Awan and Muhammad would come to their uncle Hussein and they say, give us ijazah, give us permission, let us go out in battle. But every time Hussein came, when other people would come, Hussein would say, no, not yet. No, you can't go yet. He'd say this to everyone else. But when the children went on and Muhammad would come, Hussein couldn't even bear to look at them. He would turn his head away from them. You tell me, how is an uncle supposed to look at his 9 and 11-year-old nephews and say, yes, go out and become shaheed? Who can do something like this? Hussein would turn his head away from them. The hearts of Awan and Muhammad are now broken. They were ready to go and fight and they were not getting permission. They go back to their mother. This is what a child does. Whenever their heart is broken, whenever they have a hajat, whenever they need something, they go to their mother. Mothers, always keep your hearts, always keep your connection with your children so that no matter what they say, what they do, they come to you to ask for their hajat. They come and they complain. They said, Mama, every time we go, we ask for permission. Hussein, our uncle Hussein turns himself away from us. What do we do? Now look at Zainab. Look at the mother Zainab, what she does. She takes her children on Muhammad. She puts them into new clothes. She puts the kohol on their eyes. She gets them dressed for battle. She puts the sword in their hands. She makes them beautiful. Takes them in front. She takes them hand by hand and goes towards her brother Hussein and says, Ya Hussein, Ya Akhi Hussein, you will have to accept this sacrifice from your sister Zainab. This is something you have to do. Hussein begins to cry, says, Zainab, these are the children you're going to need after me. Don't you know? Abbas will be there afterwards to protect you. Who will be there? You need your children to protect you. He said, what am I going to say to your husband Abdullah if your children go like this? And he says, Hussein, Akhi, don't you know Abdullah has given ijazah. He's the one who wants me to give these children as a sacrifice on his behalf. Finally, Hussein says, fine, I can send them for battle. He's like, but they can't go like this. They're not trained for that. Imagine now Hussein calls Ya Abbas. He calls Abbas. He says, train these children for battle. He shows them, how do you hold the sword? On, listen, when Muhammad is being struck from the back, you come back and defend him. Muhammad, when On is by himself, you come back and defend him. He's teaching 9 and 11-year-old the art of war. Make sure you stick together. Make sure you work as a team. Now they get ready to go out into battle. As they try to get onto their horse, these children are so young they can't get onto the horses by themselves. Abbas and Hussein have to help these two get onto their horses. Now they get ready to go off and fight for the first time. Before they go off, Zainab stops them, calls them back, says, Ya Muhammad,
remember one thing. What is it? Tell us. If you go out and fight, fight with all your heart. Fight to defend Islam. Fight to defend your Uncle Hussein. But don't go near that river Furat. If you get near there, if you happen to get near Furat, don't take a sip of water from there. Why? Because Sakina is waiting back here and she hasn't touched water for 3 days. Ali Asghar is still here and he hasn't touched water for 3 days. In fact, don't even look at the water. Don't look at that river of Furat. Make sure you focus on killing the enemies. This is how Zainab is sending her son on and Muhammad Tabarak. Finally, they go off. They begin fighting together. You've never seen two children like this fighting in battle before. Probably you've never seen adults fight like this in battle. Whenever someone would come and fight and try to flank Muhammad, on would come and defend him. When someone would try to get behind one of them, the other would come defend. Back and forth, they'd be defending each other. Until finally, they couldn't take so much. They're 9, 11 years old. There's only so much of the battle they can take. Until Muhammad is finally struck down, he falls off his horse and he screams, Ya Akhi, he calls his brother On, help me, adrikni. When On turns, he says, Akhi, wait, I'm coming. When he comes and he turns and he tries to go towards his brother, the enemy comes, the Mad'un comes and strikes him from behind and he falls off his horse. And now together, they turn back to their Ammu Hussein, Ya Amma, adrikni. Amma, adrikni, help us, Ammu Hussein. Do you know Mu'mineen, Mu'minat? Every time a shaheed would come back, whenever they would be brought back to the tents, when the body was brought back, the women would come out, they'd fall on the bodies and begin to cry. They begin to cry, Wa shuhada, wa qasima, wa akbara. This is how they would cry. When the woman would come out, Zainab would be the first to come out. Woman Masa'ib and cry for whoever came. But when On and Muhammad came out, Zainab did not come out at that point. When On and Muhammad, their bodies were brought back, Zainab didn't come out. She was in her tent, on her janamaz, on her musalla, saying, Rabbana taqabbal minna hada. She didn't cry over On and Muhammad. When Sham-e Ghariba came, Umar ibn Sa'ad ordered the bodies to be trampled. She ordered the women after this to go and look at the bodies that were out there. When the women came out, each of them would fall on top of the bodies that were their children or their brothers or their cousins, whoever was associated with them. But when al-Masa'ib Zainab came out, she went past the bodies of On and Muhammad and to the body of Hussein and said, Wa Husayna, this is the sabr and patience of Zainab. When Zainab went to Kufa, she didn't cry over On and Muhammad. When she was in Sham, she never cried over On and Muhammad. Everywhere she went, she maintained her patience. And she said, I can't be ashamed to my brother Hussein. Finally, one day, Abdullah ibn Ja'far hears a knock at his door. He comes and he answers and he sees an old lady bent over asking, he asked her, he's like, oh, he doesn't recognize it. Oh woman, is there something I can help you with? What do you need here? And she says, Ya Abdullah, don't you recognize your Zainab? She removes her niqab. Am I so gray and white now? Is my back so bent that you don't recognize your own wife? She walks into the house after the first time in so long. She walks into the house finally. She walks in perhaps to the rooms of On and Muhammad after so many days and months of not crying. She looks perhaps into the room of On and Muhammad, to these 2 empty beds, to these 2 many janamazes, and finally she has the chance. She can collapse and fall and say, Wa Ana, Wa Muhammada, Wa Shahida, Wa Mabruma.
अम्मा गरीब हूँ मैं, अम्मा गरीब हूँ मैं, अम्मा गरीब हूँ मैं, अम्मा गरीब हूँ मैं। असगर के खून से मैंने देखो वज़ू किया है, इसी इम्तिहान में उसने भी शुरू किया है। इसकी लहद बना कर अम्मा गरीब हूँ मैं, अम्मा गरीब हूँ मैं, अम्मा गरीब हूँ मैं, अम्मा गरीब हूँ मैं, अम्मा गरीब हूँ मैं किस कदर हूँ प्यासा, अम्मा बताऊं क्यों कहीं सूखा गला था इतना, नहीं था संजय, कब्जे में रख के कौशल। अम्मा गरीब हूँ मैं, अम्मा गरीब हूँ मैं, अम्मा गरीब हूँ मैं, अम्मा गरीब हूँ मैं, अम्मा गरीब हूँ मैं कैसा पाप था जो ऐ दौरे इम्तिहानी, रोती रही सकीना, मैं दे सका न पादी, आए यकीन तू कर। अम्मा गरीब हूँ मैं, अम्मा गरीब हूँ मैं, अम्मा गरीब हूँ मैं, अम्मा गरीब हूँ मैं, अम्मा गरीब हूँ मैं। पर्ची जवाब सर के सीने से मैंने खींची, अंसारो अकरबा की कासिम की लाश देखी, इब्ने अमीर होकर अम्मा गरीब हूँ मैं, अम्मा गरीब हूँ मैं, अम्मा गरीब हूँ मैं, अम्मा गरीब हूँ मैं, अम्मा गरीब हूँ मैं। घोड़ों के दौड़ने से पामाल हो चुका हूँ, क्या आप ही मैं वही हूँ, हैरान सोचता हूँ, नाका बने पैगंबर। अम्मा गरीब हूँ मैं, अम्मा गरीब हूँ मैं, अम्मा गरीब हूँ मैं, अम्मा गरीब हूँ मैं, अम्मा गरीब हूँ मैं। आप आ गई है अम्मा, याद आ रहा है बचपन, तो साथ साथ चलना और अपने घर का आंगन, अब खाक का है बिस्तर। अम्मा गरीब हूँ मैं, अम्मा गरीब हूँ मैं, अम्मा गरीब हूँ मैं, अम्मा गरीब हूँ मैं, अम्मा गरीब हूँ मैं। Don't say, 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 don't say. نور عيني يا حسين، نور عيني يا حسين، يا حسين يا حسين، نور عيني يا حسين، يا حسين يا حسين، نور عيني يا حسين، يا سراج الله كيف النور يخفو عيني يا حسين، يا سراج الله كيف النور يخفو نور عيني يا حسين، هكذا البعد بسوء الموت صعب نور عيني يا حسين، كيف يعلو الكفر والإيمان يخفو نور عيني يا حسين، بيديه القيد والسجاد يخفو نور عيني يا حسين، بتر الحبل المتين نور عيني يا حسين، بتر الحبل المتين نور عيني يا حسين، سيدي من وقد حل الظلام نور عيني يا حسين، سيدي من وقد حل الظلام نور عيني يا حسين، وجميع الأهل في الرمضاء نور عيني يا حسين، سيدي بعدك أسمع
وأوضاه نور عيني يا حسين أنا لاطمت وقد مات الإمام نور عيني يا حسين كيف يغفو لي عين نور عيني يا حسين كيف يغفو لي عين نور عيني يا حسين أين الحق أم أين العدالة نور عيني يا حسين يهضم السبط لدى جيش الضلالة نور عيني يا حسين كيف ترضى يا ابن من هدى الجهالة نور عيني يا حسين يا ابن سيف الله يا طه وآله نور عيني يا حسين يا ابن أمي يا حسين نور عيني يا حسين يا ابن أمي يا حسين نور عيني يا حسين أنت طوب شامخ رغم الطغاة نور عيني يا حسين أنت وصل بين ماضين وآتي نور عيني يا حسين أنت فضل أنت زهد بالحياة نور عيني يا حسين أنت عرش للهدى والتضحيات نور عيني يا حسين أنت تاج الخالدين نور عيني يا حسين أنت تاج الخالدين نور عيني يا حسين أنت ما مت سوف أنت ما مت ستبقى للخلود نور عيني يا حسين وستبقى صرخة ضد الجحود نور عيني يا حسين وستبقى كاسرا أقصى القيود نور عيني يا حسين وستعطي درس عزم وصمود نور عيني يا حسين سوف ترى الخافقين نور عيني يا حسين سوف ترى الخافقين نور عيني يا حسين صرت يا مولاي نفاسا وتوبا نور عيني يا حسين وغدت فيك شعوب الدين حرة نور عيني يا حسين صرت يا مولاي نبراسا وثورا نور عيني يا حسين وغدت فيك شعوب الدين حرة نور عيني يا حسين أنت للبائس آلاء وقربا نور عيني يا حسين أين أبنى الهدى والظلم مرة نور عيني يا حسين إن أيام الهوى والظلم مرة نور عيني يا حسين أنت حتف المفسدين نور عيني يا حسين أنت حتف المفسدين نور عيني يا حسين 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 يا حسين
تا که دلت خنک بشه منو بزن تا که دلت خنک بشه هرچی بگم جواب من کتک میشه منو پرست قفص بده منو بکش یا من جنم رو پس بده فقط بذار نفس توی یلو بیاد با گریه فریاد میزنم همون بیاد برو کنار لگد نگیر رو چادرم میخوای بخندی به زمین که میخورم بابا سرم شکسته بابا سرم شکسته، بال و پرم شکسته، حرمت دخترای اهل حرم شکسته، حرمت دخترای اهل حرم شکسته. عدو میخواست همه ببینه داغ من، زجر و یه شب فرستادن سراغ من. رحمش کجاست درد من از نیشخندشه، حسرت سینم جای زانو بندشه. بی‌طاقتم با پای پر از آمله، یادت جا موندم بابا از غافله. چند روز پیش نبودی، چند روز پیش نبودی محله یهودی، یه طایفه مغیره شدم کبود و نیلی، شدم کبود و نیلی. خوام بیام زیارت عشق کربلایت، بعد زیارت تو آرزوم شهادت. میخوام بیام زیارت، میخوام بیام زیارت عشق کربلایت، بعد زیارت تو، بعد زیارت تو آرزوم شهادت، آرزوم شهادت، آرزوم شهادت. میخوام بیام زیارت، میخوام بیام زیارت، میخوام بیام زیارت عشق کربلایت، عشق کربلایت. بعد زیارت تو، بعد زیارت تو آرزوم شهادت، آرزوم شهادت. روز ازل دلم رو، روز ازل دلم رو سرای تو سرشته، روز ازل دلم رو، روز ازل دلم رو سرای تو سرشته. خدا بروی قلبم حسین مدد نوشته، حسین مدد نوشته. روز ازل دلم رو بلای تو سرشته، روز ازل دلم رو بلای تو سرشته. خدا به روی قلبم، خدا به روی قلبم حسین مدد نوشته، حسین مدد نوشته. میخوام بیام زیارت به عشق کربلایت، بعد زیارت تو آرزوم شهادت، آرزوم شهادت. روز ازل دلم رو، روز ازل دلم رو بلای تو سرشته. خدا به روی قلبم، خدا به روی قلبم حسین مدد نوشته، حسین مدد نوشته. بدونید ای محمد، بدونید ای محمد منم گدای عباس، بدونید ای محمد، بدونید ای محمد منم گدای عباس. حنین مرغ قلبم، حنین مرغ قلبم کنار کف و لباس، کنار کف و لباس. روز ازل دلم را، روز ازل دلم را بلای تو ترشه خدا به روی قلبم زینب مدد نوشته زینب مدد نوشته روز ازل لما بلای تو سرشته خدا به روی قلبم عباس مدد نوشته عباس مدد نوشته بدونی ایها الناس بدونی ایها الناس منم گدای عباس فرید مرغ قلبم فرید مرغ قلبم کنار گهان عباس کنار گهان عباس یا سیدی یا 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 عباس بدونید ایها الناس منم گدای عباس فرید مرغ قلبم کنار گهان عباس کنار گهان عباس سیدی یا 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 عباس
सलवात को सलाम आप पे या फातिमा ज़हरा सलवात को सलाम आप पे या फातिमा ज़हरा हम आए हैं बुढ़े के लिए फातिमा ज़हरा सलवात को सलाम आप पे या फातिमा ज़हरा सलवात को सलाम आप पे या फातिमा ज़हरा हम आए हैं बुढ़े के लिए फातिमा ज़हरा हम देते हैं बुढ़ा तुम्हें अब्बास जरीका हम देते हैं बुढ़ा तुम्हें अब्बास जरीका और अकबर दिल गिर गया फातिमा ज़हरा सलवात को सलाम आप पे या फातिमा ज़हरा सलवात को सलाम आप पे या फातिमा ज़हरा हम आए हैं बुढ़े के लिए फातिमा ज़हरा कमाल किया फातिमे बेगस की लाश हो कमाल किया फातिमे बेगस की लाश हो कुबरा को भी बेवा किया या फातिमा ज़हरा सलवात को सलाम आप पे या फातिमा ज़हरा सलवात को सलाम आप पे या फातिमा ज़हरा हम आए हैं बुढ़े के लिए फातिमा ज़हरा बेटी पिनाए छोड़ी बदन जख्मी कर दिया बेटी पिनाए छोड़ी बदन जख्मी कर दिया सज्जाद पे ये जुल्म किया फातिमा ज़हरा सलवात को सलाम आप पे या फातिमा ज़हरा सलवात को सलाम आप पे या फातिमा ज़हरा हम आए हैं बुढ़े के लिए फातिमा ज़हरा अब्बास जो लश्कर का तसव्वुर के अलमदार अब्बास जो लश्कर का तसव्वुर के अलमदार दरिया पे उसे कत्ल किया फातिमा ज़हरा सलवात को सलाम आप पे या फातिमा ज़हरा सलवात को सलाम आप पे या फातिमा ज़हरा हम आए हैं बुढ़े के लिए फातिमा ज़हरा कानों से सकीना के उतारे गए गौहर कानों से सकीना के उतारे गए गौहर ज़ैनब की भी छीनी है रिदा फातिमा ज़हरा सलवात को सलाम आप पे या फातिमा ज़हरा सलवात को सलाम आप पे या फातिमा ज़हरा हम आए हैं बुढ़े के लिए फातिमा ज़हरा या हुसैन 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 या हुसैन
बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम अस्सलामु अलैका या मौलाय या अबा अब्दिल्लाह अस्सलामु अलैका व अलल अरवाह अल्लती हल्लत बिफनाइक व अनाखत बिरहलिक अलैका मिन्नी सलामुल्लाहि अबदन मा बक़ीत وبقي الليل والنهار لا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. السلام عليك يا مولاي يا غريب الغرباء ويا معين الضعفاء والفقراء. السلطان أبا الحسن علي بن موسى الرضا، كن شفيعنا وشفيع والدينا في يوم الجزاء. السلام عليك يا مولاي يا صاحب الزمان، الأمان 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 من فتنة الزمان. السلام عليك يا شريك القرآن، يا قاطع البرهان، يا إمام الإنس والجان، ويا خليفة الرحمن. عجل الله تعالى فرجك وسهل مخرجك وجعلنا من أنصارك وأعوانك. والسلام عليك وعلى آبائك الطيبين الطاهرين وعلى أمك فاطمة الزهراء سيدة نساء العالمين. والسلام عليكم جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Tomorrow we have blood drive, Red Cross blood drive. There are just few spots left, so please write down your name so that you can get thawab for this. And tomorrow I really need help in parking. So if you have mominat, drop your mominat here and then park your car in a school which is only 500 meters away from here. And we will try to park
حسينيات 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 يزيديات 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 ناري حيدري